Hey, welcome back everyone. So in today's video I want to talk to you about the opera in Riga, Latvia. And I was recently there and had a fantastic time. I went to both the opera and the ballet. Can't say I'm a huge ballet fan. That was the first one for me to go. I saw Swan Lake, which is a classic. It was very well done. Both the ballet and the opera were both at the Riga Opera House, which is a fantastic building. So I highly recommend you go see that. If you like the ballet, go see the ballet there. If you like opera, go see that. But I think both are a great experience, and I think it's very, very good value to go there in Riga. I've also gone to the opera several times in Vienna. I'll put a link to that up here somewhere on what that experience was like. Highly recommend that. But it will cost you substantially more in Vienna than it will in Riga. Riga's opera house is a little bit smaller. It's very cute, but it's very similar to Vienna, just smaller. And I found my experience there was actually quite special because it is a little bit smaller. I think I had a little bit better view of the stage. I think that the orchestra was equally good, and I really had a good time there. I think for the money, and it was about a quarter of what I spent in Vienna, it's really good value. When you're planning your visit to the Riga Opera House, one of the things I would recommend is to get a seat not necessarily on the floor. I had both a seat on the floor and also a seat back in one of the booths. Back in one of the booths, I find, is a little bit better of a view of the stage and the orchestra, but also it allows you to see the translation a little bit better. So most opera houses will give you an option for being able to see the translation so you can kind of follow the story a little bit better. If you're in Vienna, you'll actually have a little digital readout that's right in front of you if you're in the front row of that booth. It's really cool and definitely worth paying the extra for, I believe. However, in Riga, you don't have that option when you're in a booth. However, there is a digital readout that's above the stage, actually really high above the stage where the lights are, and you have to look up to see it. So if you're on the floor and you're looking at the performance, you actually have to crank your neck up to be able to see that digital readout. However, if you're in a booth, or if you're at the back in a booth higher up, and there's multiple levels, as I'll show you in a minute, you're actually able to see that digital readout that much easier. So that's my recommendation for seat selection at the Riga Opera House, is don't necessarily pick the floor. Even though you're going to be closer to the performance, I would recommend, especially if you want to see the translation, to pick a booth, and probably I would be directly behind the stage. I'm usually at an angle. I prefer to be closer. However, if I was to do it again, I would be directly behind the stage, probably at the second level or third level up. All right, so let's actually take a look at what it looks like inside the Riga Opera House. I couldn't record during the performance, but I did record as I was going into the Opera House, what that looks like, what the seating is like, what the booths look like, and then also immediately after the performance ended. So let's take a look at that, and I'll talk you through as we go. One of the most amazing things in the Riga Opera House, and you'll see this on their website and advertisement, is that amazing chandelier and the lighting that they have in the Opera House. It's kind of their hallmark image, and it is pretty amazing. So you can see that in the center of the room there up on the ceiling. This is very, very similar to the design of the Vienna Opera House. It's got that very classic look. There you can see the orchestra warming up. That's a very kind of magical moment, I find. Everyone's getting anxious for the start of the performance, and it's just really a cool time. I think I'm second from the front there as far as the rows, so I had a pretty good view. Unlike some other opera houses, they're not buried underneath the stage. You can really see them quite well. So if you're on the second level there, like I was for the next performance, I had a really good view of what they were doing, and that's kind of nice. I like to be able to see the orchestra as well as the stage performance. And there's that amazing chandelier. I just had to get some footage of that for you, just because it's so cool. And when you're there in person, it's even more magnificent. There's me. Of course, it's COVID times, so you can see everybody's wearing their mask. Not everyone, but it was mandated. And when I was in Vienna, not everybody was, and it wasn't absolutely mandated actually there. It was interesting because some people were getting upset with people that weren't wearing their mask because it was now an emergency and things were getting worse there. But everybody was pretty good. They were all wearing their masks. And look at the gold there. The gold paint is pretty amazing. You can get an idea there of what the booths look like. There's different size booths. There's different rows within the booths as well. There's my neighbors. Everybody's wearing a suit. Pretty formal dress there. much like in Vienna, a lot of guys wearing suits. You can get away with just wearing a jacket perhaps, or even just a smart collared shirt. I saw some gentlemen there just wearing sweaters, so that's definitely an option as well. Usually that's where I sit, right where I'm showing you there, is at that angle. There's 3 different floors on this opera house, and you can choose which one you want. I've never sat at the very top. Perhaps one day I'll try that. It looks pretty high up. I'm not sure what the view would be like there, but I think I'll try perhaps the 2nd floor next time. Everybody's getting seated there now. You can see that I'm at the very front on the floor. That was not my favorite seat. I really had to crank my neck to be able to see the digital display and read along to what's going on. But look at the stage here. Just amazing gold paint and this red velvet curtain. Very kind of regal, right? Very royal looking. But yeah, magnificent building. Very, very cool inside. It's worth going just to experience that, the history there. Speaking of history, you know, it was originally opened in 1782 with 500 seating capacity. And between 1860 and 1863, the new Riga City Theater was built with almost 2,000 seats. So it dramatically grew. And then the building burnt down in June 14th, 1882, and only the outer walls remained. It's pretty amazing. And then it was renovated from 1882 to 1887. The theater was then closed for the German company during World War I. And then until 1915, the building was used for concerts by the Riga Imperial Music School. The last performance of the German company in the theater took place in January 1st, 1919. The next afternoon, the building annex was burnt down and was fully restored in 1922. Between 1920 and 1940, over 300 performances took place with an average annual audience of over 220,000 people. That's pretty amazing. In 1940, when the Soviet Union occupied Latvia, the name of the theater was changed to the Opera and Ballet Theater of the Latvian SSR. Under the Nazi German occupation of 1941 to 1944, it became the Riga Opera Theater, only to revert to the name given in 1940 when the Soviet troops reoccupied Latvia in 1945. On April 24th, 1989, the opera celebrated its 70th anniversary and changed its name back to the one from the interwar period. The Latvian National Opera celebrated its 90th anniversary with a concert on the 22nd of December 2009. So some really rich history, of course, from this building, right? And when you go into it, you can feel that rich history. It's just not only the performance is amazing, but I think also to feel the history and to know a little bit about the history and what they've been through with the occupation. Just magnificent golden paint, just the whole architecture, the whole design is pretty breathtaking when you first walk in. And I think if you're going there with your special someone, this could be, if they're into this sort of performance, whether it be ballet or opera, this could be a wonderful experience for them too. So I'd recommend perhaps go out for dinner, have a nice evening, then catch a performance. Make sure you book your seats beforehand. If you're booking seats in a booth, I highly recommend you book the front row. I felt really bad for the people that were sitting behind me because not only the angle, but also I'm sitting right in front of them. And I would assume it's very difficult for them to see the stage. I think they hear a lot of it, of course, but I think their view is obstructed. And I would not recommend you pay the amount of money that you need to pay, especially in cities like Vienna. It's much cheaper here in Riga. Pay about the same for a seat that I would say is not very good at all. So make sure you get the front row if you're booking a booth. If not, then I would pick maybe the floor or get a different booth where you can get the front row. All right, that concludes the video for Riga Opera House. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I highly recommend you take a look at it if you're in Riga. This is one of your opportunities to get a very good value ticket to go see an opera or a ballet. The performance quality is going to be as good as everywhere else. The establishment, the building, the architecture, the history is all going to be as good or better than most other places. And you're going to pay a fraction of the cost that you would in other cities with a bigger opera house like, say, Vienna. So if it's your first time or you just want to see another performance, I highly recommend it. Great value and really good quality. If you've been to the Riga Opera House, please let me know what your experience was like in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it. If you think it's good value like I do, also please do let me know. If you think it's not good value, I'd love to hear about that too. If you found somewhere that's even better for opera or ballet, I'd love to hear that as well. So with that, happy trails.